So here it is, guys, at the Ferrari, I guess we'll call it the display here at Pebble Beach. Supposed to be the main star of the show because it is the brand new flagship 12-cylinder Grand Tourer, the 12 Cylindri. I think it's pretty easy for you guys to tell what this is really paying homage to with its design, especially with this black strip that goes right across the front. It's obviously paying homage to the original 365 GTB4 Daytona with that fastback design and the incredibly long hood to fit that V12 inside of it. So what's interesting as well is they've debuted the coupe and the convertible at the exact same time. Usually the Spider variant comes afterwards or a year after the coupe, but this time they've done both at once. So you get a side-by-side look at if you like the coupe or the detachable hardtop more. And personally, I would probably take the detachable hardtop in this scenario because it actually doesn't interfere with the lines too much. And I really like the spec on this. It's almost like a greenish silver with, I want to call it brownish gold interior and matching brake calipers. So the F60 America, there's 10 in the world, all built for American customers. Now, what's really interesting with this, obviously it looks like it's based on the F12 chassis, but inside you do have these special seats that have the American stars and stripes running right through the center. And what is also interesting as well, you can see one half is red, the other half here is black. They're really good looking cars as well. They all come in different specs. This one obviously is very similar, but they do have slightly different striping. This one has red accents around the white stripe. You can still see the red and black contrasting seats with the American accents. And over here, we also have a yellow one finished with a blue stripe, which is really good looking. So as mentioned, there's 10 of these in the world, all built for the American market. So what you're looking at here is 30% of all the production of the F60 Americas. We also have some incredibly rare 275 GTB4 Spiders, the NART Spiders, which stands for the North American Racing Team. I think they were all commissioned for that North American Racing Team. Also incredibly rare. I can't remember exactly how many of these there are, but I believe one of them is valued around 15 million to 20 million US dollars. And once again, the fact that there is two of them sitting side by side is absolutely outrageous. And this sort of, I guess you want to call it faded yellow, is a really nice looking color you don't see on too many other Ferraris. And over here you have a more classic silver on a red interior, which is just so good looking. And obviously it's based on the standard 275 GTB4, which already has great styling. The convertible also works really well too. Hey, there we go, guys. This is why you hit the road early. There is not a soul in sight. And we are here with the Luc Poirier Ferrari collection. As you can see, pretty much all of the big Ferraris you would expect out of a internationally renowned collection. So obviously all of the big five, the Hypercars, 288 GTO, F40, F50, Enzo, Laferrari Coupe, and Laferrari Aperta. We do have ropes around them, but understandable. We still get a pretty good look at them. And as you'll notice, everything from the big lineup here, all in Rosso Corsa. Unsurprisingly, it's got a match. No problems with that. Just seeing these cars is quite the treat. So, as you can see, there's a lot to look through in this section here at the Montreal Auto Show. So we'll start off at the front of the row, Laferrari Aperta, one of 150 beside the Laferrari Coupe. And a couple ways you can tell, obviously, well, the roof being off the Aperta, the easiest way to tell the open top from the hard top, but a couple distinctive traits. You can see just a little black mark on the side behind the front wheels. That's an easy tell that it is an Aperta. And they also have these 70th anniversary badges just in front of the rear wheels. The stripe is unique to the Aperta as well, compared to the Laferrari Coupe, the OG, well, OG from this generation of the Ferrari hypercars at least. And keep walking down here, we have the Enzo F50, my personal favorite, the F40. They've got the OG, this is the real OG from the Ferrari hypercar lineage, the 288 GTO, of course made for Group B racing, and then Group B got cancelled, so all we really got out of it was a pretty cool Ferrari road car. And he's also teched an SF90 Spider, and I think this row is equally as cool too. We sort of have the V8 track specials. So hypercars over there, V8 track specials here. Starting off, well, we have 328 and 308s, but the 348 Speciales where they really started to go a little crazier at the V8 flagship models and make them a little more track focused. Gives us special variants. Only 100 units of the 348 Speciale, so that's pretty cool. 355 Fiorano. This is my personal favorite of this lineage, the Challenge Stradale. I think this is one of my all-time favorite Ferraris, period, not just from this lineage, just in general. And this is one car where I really don't mind if you just want to stick to the same whole Rosso Corsa. That is just such an iconic look, especially with the tricolore stripes. Over here, the 430 Scuderia 16M, of course, the open-top version of the Scud, and 16M for the 16 Ferrari championships in Formula 1. So pretty iconic. I think there's only like 500 units of them, or 499. And the 48 Pista Spider as well. That looks really, really good. Interesting spec, not the same Rosso Corsa as a lot of the collection we've seen so far. You can see there's a lot more color back there that we'll get to in a second, but that Pista spec is pretty damn cool. The silver, I think, Argento Nürburgring, the orange stripes. Never really seen orange stripes done before, but they do carry all the way back onto the seats, as you can see there, the headrests and the striping. We head over here to the 599 GTO, my favorite of these V12 Grand Tours. Of course, the track focus variant. A lot of nice touches compared to the standard 599. Obviously, the vented hoods and the front grille and everything like that is different, but more power, lightweight, and just such a good looking design. I will never, ever get tired of seeing this car. One of my all-time favorite Ferraris. And then, of course, that evolves into the F12 TDF, also very nice, and many of them had this heritage stripe across the hood, paying homage to some classic Ferrari race cars, and then that has evolved. We don't have the competition version here. We do have a very nice 812 GTS, though. The yellow accents are quite nice. You can see back there on the seats, and we do have some yellow calipers on the side as well. If we shift over here, yeah, very, very good looking car. And again, I like how they've organized the cars here. You can see the lineage through the V8 models, the V12 models, the hypercars. It's quite the assortment. Okay, obviously a few historic Ferrari racing cars here. The 250 Testarossa, which is a Le Mans winner, and one of the most iconic race cars, not just Ferraris, of all time. Absolutely beautiful and lovely design. Beside it, though, is probably the most famous of these classic Ferrari race cars, the 250 GTO. And what's wild about this Ferrari display is there's not one, there's actually two of them here in our presence. Now, the blue and yellow one is incredibly bold design. I really like it, actually. Obviously, you can see a lot of guys with their modern Ferraris get this similar heritage stripe on their cars. Now you can see what it's paying homage to, and this one does have blue seats as well, which a lot of classic Ferrari race cars actually have that feature. And behind it, we have silver with the blue, white, and red stripes. Now, this particular car was actually the exact former most expensive car in the world. It's actually David McNeil, the CEO, the founder of WeatherTech Floor Mats, who bought this car. I think it was maybe like 10 years ago or something like that. It was a while back, but either way, former most expensive car in the world before it got trumped by the 300 SLR that was like 130 million or something, absolutely crazy like that. But you can see there's so much history with this car. The design is absolutely gorgeous and looks so good. There's a very good reason why this car is worth so much money. I think the selling price was about 75 million US. So absolutely outrageous that there's two of these on the lawn at the exact same time. We have the 250 GT Berlinetta behind those two 250 GTOs as well. Another great looking classic Ferrari race car. This one is the NART North American Racing Team. So now you guys can see, as I mentioned before, with those two 275 convertibles, that is what NART stands for. So obviously a very famous collaboration between Ferrari and the North American Racing Team. And the 250 GT, I think this is the short wheelbase variant too, is definitely one of the best looking cars that they've ever raced. Speaking of which, look at that 333 SP from the late 90s, one of the most iconic Le Mans prototypes out there for sure. It raced in
major races like 24 hours of Daytona, the 12 hours of Sebring as well. And the V12 in this is honestly one of the best sounding things you could ever hear in your life. I've been lucky enough to hear one of these racing around Daytona many years ago, and it's just ear shattering in the best way possible. And just the massive wing that hangs over the back is such a cool feature. Inside, obviously, bare bones. You got a steering wheel, a bit of roll assistance, and that is pretty much it. It's just such a lovely car. Once again, very special we get to see this on the lawn. And here we do have some tailor-made Ferraris back here, and they all sort of look to have a bit of an American theme because they are all red, white, and blue, just in different paint schemes. So this one obviously has baby blue with a nice blue and red stripe, red seats, and white accents in the interior. Here we have a more interesting one with blue. It's sort of a reverse of the last one beside it there. This one has white wheels, which I'm a huge sucker for. I think that looks great on almost any car. This one also has bold white seats with red accents. Behind that, that's more of an American spec right there. Just a pretty classy at plain white with the blue and red stripe. And if you look in the interior, see if we can get around the lighting here, it's sort of similar to what is in the F60 America with those stars and stripes right there through the seat. Even the stitching is blue, white, and red. If you guys could see it through the light there, that is pretty remarkable. They're actually able to do that. I can only imagine that little detail and that option cost a ton of money. And over here we also have a pair of 812s. Looks like the GTSs, sort of painted like the American flag, white, blue, and red. And this one as well, just white with the blue stripes. Pretty classy, pretty simple, but it does work very nicely, I have to say, with a nice red interior with white accents. $599, very nice. Honestly, my favorite of the modern V12 like flagship GT Ferraris. I'd take that over an F12 or an A12 any day.
You guys, this is really special combo here. We've got this sort of green and silverish mixture on this 812 competition. I've never seen this color before, but it looks absolutely beautiful. And I must say, under the lights here in the dark, does really pop. We've got a tricolore stripe, white with a little bit of green and red accents. Some brushed gold wheels on it too. That is an incredibly unique spec. But speaking of unique, have a look at that one-of-one repainted blue F40. Of course, all the F40s were red from the factory. This is a respray, but it's the only one in blue, and it looks absolutely fantastic. Got an F512M rolling by here as well. Another one. And yeah, cars are just going to be pouring in all morning, I believe, guys. So it's going to be non-stop. And we have two 250 California Spiders over there as well. It sort of looks like they're both dark blue or black. Kind of hard to tell in the lighting. Get up close here. It does look to be black, I'm going to assume. But either way, again, just millions and millions of dollars. There we go, guys. There's the ultimate prize in a bag. White Laferrari, all white actually. You can see the roof is painted to match the body, which is pretty rare. Most Laferraris just have a black painted roof, but this one has option for the body color painted roof, which is pretty damn cool. Again, it looks really good on these black wheels with the red outline just on the outskirts of the rim. That looks really good. Have a look at the back. It's kind of funny seeing these cars in the bags, I can't really lie. Definitely reminiscent of the old Car Week vibes, keeping the dust off the car or keeping the rain off. Two more special V12s have a bit of a helping hand here with the light behind us, so makes the cars pop just a little bit more. But another 812 competition. I'm a bit of a sucker for white cars too, so I think white on the 812 comp just pops, really shows off the different accents compared to a standard 812. But then just beside that, we've got the infamous convertible 509 GTO, otherwise known as the SP Aperta, one of 80. And the distinct way of telling that when it still has the roof up is just the silver outlinings along the roof and the silver side mirrors as well. And also, just notice there is a bit of a difference in the hood too. I believe the 509 GTO has 3 slits on the intakes on the hood, whereas the 599 SP Aperta has the standard 599 hood. But
side street finds in Carmel. Look at that, just getting a fresh detail. We've got the 812 comp, and I guess it's sort of like a brush blue with some goldish accents. Really, really incredible. And yeah, just getting a detail here, so we'll leave the guys to it. Pete's Details, if that's the guys you want to see when you're in Carmel. Second 812 comp of the day, and I think it's actually the second 812 comp of Car Week altogether. We haven't really been seeing these around, so it's good to see a couple here on Thursday. And I think we've seen these before. I think I mentioned this in previous videos, but I do like the 812 comp a lot more than the F12 TDF. I just think all that they've done to this car, modifying it compared to the standard 812, it's such a huge step up. Everything from these little tiny winglets, if you want to call them, that just swirls the wind around, creates more downforce on the back end, right to the front. I just love the carbon fiber striping that goes across from either side of the hood, and look at that, it's just such a good looking car. And lo and behold, I was just saying, we haven't had too many 812 comps. There's actually two more here now parked outside of Spanish Bay. We've got this beautiful dark red one with the light red accents. That's a great looking car. Here is the other one. It's a light blue. I'm not even sure what the exact Ferrari color code is for this one, but it looks really good against the yellow accents. And what's cool is the yellow stripes go all the way through the interior. You can sort of see a yellow stripe through the seat and the yellow bands on the steering wheel. It looks like it has blue seats too to match. And what's really cool as well is these painted the rear, I guess you call it duckbill spoiler, in that bright yellow. It's pretty contrasting, but honestly, I think it works. It pops really nicely against the blue, and this is a really cool and unique spec, and one that I have not even seen pictures of before. So that's another great find here at Spanish.
Per Sangway.
Nice. Really, really good looking truck, I would say.
And a shout out to the Romas too. They look good too. Oh. 575 Super America. All the cars are piling in now. It's getting really busy. And as the covers are coming off, we get some really, really cool surprises. A 599XX. And this is actually almost cooler than the Evolution. A lot of guys did the Evolution kit, which had the big rear wing at the back. This is the standard 599XX, but the obviously track only supercar. Those winglets back there are just so cool. Always my favorite detail of this car. But I do see a couple of very, very cool cars coming in. We've got a matching Enzo and F50 back there in a very unique color, so we're gonna check that out right now. So I will not try and guess the color on this. It might be Rosso Scuderia or Rosso Mugello, one of those two, but either way, it's not Rosso Corsa, which is always cool to see a non-resale red painted Ferrari, especially one of the limited edition hypercars. So the Enzo is there, but it's really cool to have a matching F50 back there in the same color. I want to show you guys that right now. It does look really, really cool. Again, with the rain and the wet ground, everything, all these colors really pop very nicely. Absolutely beautiful. Another F40, because why not? Just pulling out there. See, a 250 LM has been uncovered as well. There's just so much to look at, guys. This is incredible. There we go, tucked in all the way at the back is the black Enzo. There's something about a black Enzo that's just so special, and I think the black Enzo just fits in really well here down in southern Florida. It's just such a classy look. Of course we've got another F40 there, because why not? I've lost track of how many F40s are at this event, but the black Enzo is just so cool to see. I don't know how many were finished in black from the factory. There can't be too many though. I could probably count them on one hand, but that is just fantastic looking.
812 comp sneaking around, didn't even see this earlier. Wow, cool spec too. a few classic historical Ferrari race cars. You start off with this 857 Sport Spider, which a lot of them do look very similar from this era, but each one sort of has its own unique take. I think that shark fin, or the fin behind the driver's headrest there, is very unique to this 857. It looks super interesting. 250 TDF, which is very famous, one of the most well-known of these classic Ferrari race cars, especially from the 250 series. Beside that, we also have a 500 TR, which just looks great. One of my personal favorite Ferrari race cars, the 333 SP Evolution. So it raced in many different series around the world. It was at Le Mans, it was in IMSA here in North America. And I think this Momo livery is fairly well known too. I think this particular car was in old Forza Motorsport games, so I'm sure many of you guys will recognize it. It's just one of the craziest sounding race cars ever built. That screaming V12 sounds so damn good, and I just love this sort of styling of these late 90s Le Mans prototypes too. Well, this is quite the incredible find on a random Wednesday night of car spotting, a SP3 Daytona. I hope this is a sign of good things to come, because this is absolutely incredible. I've not even seen one out in the wild here in Ontario or Toronto yet. So yeah, just a random surprise. You never know what you're going to find when you're down in Yorkville. And it looks like Rosso Fuoco. It's like a dark red. You can see obviously it has these like gold bronzish wheels. Very, very nice looking car. We did see a few back in Monterey, obviously, and definitely one of my favorite modern Ferraris. You can see there's a lot of old styling cues. I don't know if they want us going to the back of the car, so we're not going to get that angle. But you can obviously see there's some like classic styling on the gills here. Very like 80s flair to it. It has a lot of like Testarossa, that kind of vibe to it, or a 512 BB. This is such a cool looking car, and I think one of my favorite features is obviously the front headlights. You can see there's that little tiny slit that is covering the top half right now, sort of like a modern day pop-up. When you turn the car on, when you turn the headlights on, that will slide up and expose the full headlights. But man, that is a crazy surprise that I was definitely not expecting to see on a Wednesday night. There it is, guys, the mint F40. Again, one of one. Of course, all of the F40s from factory painted red, so this is, of course, is a respray. What was really cool to me and stands out, obviously, is blue seats and blue saw belts, and that really sticks out against the mint colored bodywork, which looks absolutely fantastic. We've seen some strange colored F40s. You remember back at Cavallino, we saw the blue one, and now we have the mint one. And personally, I think the mint might be my favorite of all the different colored F40s I have seen. But that is incredibly special, and there's a good reason why it's being modded by a ton of people. Now guys, in this next section here is a collection of cars that I believe are all from one owner that are going up from the RM auction. But what's interesting is that every single Ferrari you see here is manual. So the blue 612, the 575, the 550 Berchetta, every single one of them is manual. And there are so many interesting specs, even the blue 612 over there on the beige seats. And again, the 575, the 550 Berchetta, very special cars. And the fact that they're manual makes them so much rare, so much more valuable. Now guys, this is probably the best car in this auction. You might be wondering, well, it's just a 599. Well, first of all, the 599 is probably my favorite V12 Grand Tour in the modern Ferrari era. But inside, look, it's blue, it has gray interior, but if you guys can see, that's a gated manual inside. So there's only 30 manual 599s in the world. 20 were delivered to North America. And one of them is sitting right here in an absolutely ridiculous spec. Blue Mirabelle on the gray interior, every single carbon fiber option. You've got black brake calipers. This is the perfect car, I think. My personal perfect Ferrari. So, hey, if I was going to buy something from this auction, this would probably be the car. This is the Ferrari 280 GT California Spider. It's a short wheelbase, but obviously, as you can see, it's painted in this like Nardo gray color. And the interesting thing to note is you would probably assume that this would only ever be painted in red from the factory, these classic old Ferrari 250s. But this was exactly how it was presented way back in 1960 at the Geneva Motor Show. I believe the current owner of this, or the one who is auctioning this off, is Michael Ballack, obviously the famous football player. So this is going to fetch a ton of money. The estimate is well into the tens of millions of dollars. I think it'll probably go around like 15 to 20, anywhere there USD at the auction. So this is an incredibly special car. I mean, the details on this, the 250 California Spider is probably one of the most iconic Ferraris or iconic cars of all time, and here it is, just hiding in this secret layer of multi-million dollar collector cars. And just have a look at that, guys. The fact that we are just standing in front of this with nothing else around is absolutely incredible, because this is a 2002 Ferrari F2001B, and of course 2002 was a championship year for the Scuderia, and particularly that man right there, Michael Schumacher. So there's no nose cone on the front of this. I'm sure it is somewhere throughout the layer or hidden somewhere tucked away in storage. This one will be going up for auction, obviously selling for millions and millions of dollars. Any sort of Ferrari, Formula One memorabilia, classic cars, especially one that's driven by the legendary Michael Schumacher, fetches a ton of money. And here it is, ditched in a garage beside a little Toyota forklift. This is truly, I guess you could say, I mean, a modern day barn find, if you want to call it that. This is just remarkable. Again, to be finding cars like this just ditched in a public parking garage is so special, and something that really is only going to happen at one place, and that is Monterey Car Week. 488 Challenge race car. That is pretty damn cool. Not expecting to see that come bumbling down the road here at Cavallino. And there's a 16M in front of it too, by the way. Silver Enzo finally out from underneath the bag. Look at it in all its glory. I don't know if you guys prefer the dark red, the black, or the silver, but either way, you can't really go wrong. It's an Enzo, and it's just nice to see it in different colors too. That is absolutely beautiful. There's still cars pouring in here at Cavallino. This is non-stop. There, check out the back of the Mansory Stallone 812. So we already know what Mansory is all about. Just wild customization on supercars and hypercars. Just things that other companies aren't willing to do. Are they controversial? Yes. Are they interesting? Definitely. I mean, look at all this forged carbon back here. This big old wing hanging off of it. This is actually one of the more subdued Mansory cars, I would say. It still looks like an 812. Some of the other Mansory cars just straight up changes the whole appearance of the base car. But this one is actually not too shabby. I don't really mind it. 1968 Ferrari 312 Formula One car. The wedge shape, or the cigar shapes you want to call it. Very classic design. You can see how much the Formula One cars have evolved over the years. Pretty much just a steering wheel and an engine right behind your head. There's absolutely no safety involved in these things, but they do look cool. But now you can see the evolution into a more modern Ferrari. I think this is Blue Le Mans on the SP3 Daytona. Absolutely beautiful car. This new Icona series, so following up on the SP1 and the SP2 Monzas, and never seen one in blue before. It's quite striking, especially under the light. Really makes the color pop. That is absolutely beautiful. There we go, incredibly special car. Probably the main prize of the Cavallino Classic this year is this 250 GTO, finished in this like sort of minty green color. You can see the little tartan strip on the front. This was an ex-Sterling Moss race car, and I believe the rumor is it's been 10 years since this car has seen the light of day, and you can kind of tell because the paint is just in pristine condition. And the 250 GTOs are pretty much the most expensive cars in the world before that 300 SLR broke the record. But overall, the 250 GTO is still the most expensive car. So ranging from about 70 to 100 million, I would say. And this one, I can't even imagine how much it'd be worth. Now,
Obviously, we are way more used to seeing F50s and F40s and Enzos in red, but I think it's always nicer when we do see it in a less traditional color. And personally, I think yellow Ferraris are the best. I really don't think you can go wrong. I think it suits every single Ferrari so damn well, especially on a legend like the F50 out in the wild. Once again, it's just so freaking cool. It's just such a great opportunity. Only a handful were finished in yellow, and if you guys don't know, it's actually quite a hassle to take the roof off of an F50, so you got to be very committed. You've got to check the weather beforehand, make sure it's not going to rain if you want to take this out for a drive with that roof off. So shout out and kudos to the owner for toughing this out, enjoying the last bit of nice weather we are going to have here, or the nice bit of summer weather we have here in Toronto, Canada, to show off this F50. And Pista Piloti. Got the Monza SP2 with the helmets on. How cool is that? Looks like Daft Punk driving the car. Whoa. Here we go. This might be my second favorite car in the section. If you're asking why second favorite, I'll explain why in a second as we get further down the line. But we do have the F40 with the F40 race variant, which is known as the GTE, which I'm not even sure if I've actually seen one of these in person before. So we're going to get a little bit closer to take a look at it. So obviously we've seen the F40 LM on the channel before. The GTE is a little bit different. It's got slightly different arrow. Once again, number 27. I already showed you guys what's on the wrist. That is the number that you want to have. That is the best one out there. But the GTE does have a slightly different wing from obviously the standard road car, as well as the LM and the 5-spoke Yankees. Hey, shout out to the JDM world. That's really, really good looking. Okay, we've walked our way over to the wedge-shaped concept cars, and these are some of the most ridiculous things you will ever see. Some of the most iconic concepts as well. We start with the 512S Modulo by Pininfarina. Now, obviously, you can see it's basically, it literally is a wedge. The category for this class is not sugarcoating it at all. So obviously the tires and wheels are completely covered up, just except for that one little indent there. And what's interesting is it looks like it's a center seat position, but it's actually not. The seats are just so closely positioned next to each other. You have these massive side steps. They have to crawl over to get into the car. I believe it's a completely opening canopy mechanism to get in and out of the car as well. Now, the interesting thing is the car was not operational when it was first built, when it first debuted, but a private owner bought it, and it looks like they have slapped a V12 into it, which is absolutely insane, but really, really cool that they actually decided to get this thing moving and working. And even just the back of it, look at this, the like sort of half covered wheels back there as well. What a wild looking car. Here's a remarkable trio of Ferrari race cars. So here we have the 412P. Now, to my knowledge, this was basically a different version of the 330P4 that was sold to privateer racing teams. It was much easier to manage and maintain than the 330P4 the factory teams were racing. So the 412P is essentially a pretty similar car to the 330P4 with some minor modifications for the private teams, but here are the actual 330P4s. Now, these should be pretty recognizable to most people, especially if you watch Ford versus Ferrari, because the 330P4 was one of the cars that was obviously Ford's main rival when they raced with the GT40, and obviously they triumphed over the 330P4, but this one is still incredibly iconic and one of Ferrari's best known race cars for all of the amazing battles they had on track. There's just so much history with them, and once again, the fact that there is two here on the lawn here for the Ferrari Pebble Beach display is pretty damn remarkable. Looks like the 70th anniversary. Yes, it is. 48, nice. And look at this, guys, just down the road in the same parking lot as the Zondanero, two Ferrari race cars. We got a Ferrari 308 LM, which is pretty interesting looking, or it's a GT2 spec, and honestly has body panels that are very similar to the 288 GTO. That is awesome. But this is absolutely incredible. A Ferrari 550 GTS that was built to compete in the old FIA GT1 championship. So it would have raced against some pretty iconic cars, but this on its own is just incredible looking. The sound of these things produce as well is just absolutely mega. This is from a bygone era of just special and cool race cars that you really don't see anymore. So again, the fact that this is ditched in a parking lot and absolutely nobody is around it is pretty damn special. Here's a nice little random spot in a area where I haven't ever really seen any hypercars, in the middle of the Del Monte Forest. Got a Ferrari SP3 Daytona. Now, obviously, the part of the Icona series. It's not open top. It's not a track-only car like the SP1 or the SP2. Fully road legal. You can pop the top off of this as well. I love the heritage stripe down the middle with the classic red. It's got blue seats on it, and the SP3 has a lot of cool design cues. You can obviously see influenced by a lot of classic Ferrari race cars, and with a name like Daytona, it all makes sense. You even got the gumball racing sticker on the back here, and just these ventilated or these slitted back end is just such a good look for this car. And I don't really have too much room back here, but you can kind of get a little glimpse of the back angle of the SP3. It's a fantastic looking car, and to see it out in the wild is pretty damn special. Again, absolutely nobody around, so we can take a minute to appreciate that and have a look at that. Just such a good looking car. Okay, resto mods have become quite a big deal in recent years, and the latest one to get the treatment is this Ferrari 355. I believe it's Evoluto Auto who does this. Now, of course, Ferrari really doesn't like anybody doing anything to their cars, so I can't imagine they're too happy with this, but I'm happy that Evoluto went ahead and did this to the 355 because I think it looks fantastic. It's kind of reminiscent, the styling-wise, of the Eccentrica Diablo that we have seen around a bit this year. We saw it more in detail last year as well, but it obviously has some modern touches, but it still keeps the body lines and still a lot of good analog bits inside the car as well. Those nice little blue bucket seats to match the exterior. It's got the upgraded Brembo brakes, and yeah, it can obviously have a lot more power than the standard 355, but it looks really good parked on the street. The back might actually be my favorite part of this too. I do like these little added gills they've put on the car, and you can see some carbon fiber bits here just around the exhaust. I like the new lights that they've added to it as well. Honestly, with that kind of styling to it, it's kind of reminiscent of a Skyline GTR, which I'm not going to complain about because we love Skylines on this channel. The rest of it is obviously very distinctly Ferrari, and if you didn't see before, inside it's obviously a gated manual too. So hey, great job to these guys at Evoluto. This is a big winner for me in my books. There we go, guys. Now we've got the comp Aperta 2, very nice. Looks to be the launch spec. And here's another 812 comp. Look at that, the Tricolore spec. Tricolore brakes too. Wow, check out the spec on this, guys. Dark green on gold. Yeah, so this is the 812 comp I really want to show you guys as it drove in. We only got just a quick look at it, but man, the Tricolore spec, absolutely incredible. And this is something that you rarely ever see, the Tricolore brake calipers. I'm not even sure how much it would have cost to do a spec like that, but it's absolutely beautiful. Of course, matching the stripes on the exterior. Incredible looking car. Even got the Tricolore stripe right across the top of the steering wheel there. It runs through the seats as well. That is just such a good looking car. Again, I think this is much better looking than the F12 TDF, just a personal opinion, but man, they really knocked this one out of the park with the 812 Competizione. We saw the Aperta roll in over there. Of course, you can see it's a bit different looking at the back because it is an open top variant. It does have the top up today because it is quite chilly, but here is the other 812 comp that is just remarkable looking. This dark green with the gold accents really pops. It almost looks like black in some lights, but it is in fact a very dark green. I think this might be a tailor-made car, to be honest, because I've never seen one in a spec like this before, but it's just such, again, I can't even reiterate how many times I could possibly say this, but it's just such a beautiful looking design. There are some really nicely spec'd 812s, I will say that. Lovely. And a Pista Peloti 488 as well.
Got a red Laferrari Aperta, and one I don't think we've seen before, so that's always nice. And don't know if they all have this, but the red trim around the wheels is something that I'm not too familiar with seeing on Laferrari Aperta, so I'll have to double check that. But yeah, other than that, it's a pretty basic spec, but hey, Laferrari Aperta is pretty damn cool. We have the SP3 Daytona over there as well. Look at Toronto Supercar spotting in that crouching tiger stance. This is the one we did see like late last night in Carmel, so it's kind of hard to see the spec. Now I can see it in the daylight, that beautiful dark red with the blue stripes and gold wheels, which is something that I couldn't even really see at night. And obviously you can pop the top off this one, which he did, and that's nice under the sun, the blue seats with the red striping. Here's that green piece that we saw from a distance back at Casa Ferrari the other night. Now we can actually see up close here in the Quail Overflow parking lot. It's like a greenish yellow. It's a pretty interesting looking color, and it's got like a light brown interior. What's cool is it's got a matching green stripe that goes all the way through the interior, right through the seats up to the headrest with a green prancing horse. So really, I would say a one-off spec, and that's pretty bold.
Competition youth finished first in class at the 90. 4.2. We don't like that. 4.2. The bid's here at 4.3. In its striking original delivery colours, Ferrari Classic Red Book certified, fully numbers matching example, retaining its original engine.
15.5 million. Holding your bid, Sylvia. Have your bid at 15.5 million. Sold! 15.5 million. Thank you, sir.